With a single sentence, a 10-year-old girl stopped a $250 million scam in its tracks. High above the city, where the streets looked like thin veins of light and sound barely reached, a penthouse glowed beneath crystal chandeliers. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped the room in glass, revealing a skyline of steel and ambition. This was a place where history was discussed as an asset, and legacy was measured in numbers with too many zeros. At the center of the room sat Sheikh al-Jamil. He was a powerful man, old money, old blood, and a name that carried weight across continents. Yet tonight, his shoulders sagged slightly beneath an invisible burden. Before him lay a document said to be priceless, an ancient land deed written in elegant Arabic calligraphy, promising ownership of an oasis and mineral rights worth $250 million. Around him stood advisors and investors in tailored suits, their expressions sharp with hunger and anticipation. At the head of the presentation stood Alastair Finch, a tall, silver-haired man with a confident smile that never quite reached his eyes. His leather briefcase rested open beside him like a magician's box, its secrets already spilling wealth into eager imaginations. But in the far corner of the room, nearly swallowed by shadows and silence, stood a child. Ava. She was 10 years old, wearing a faded blue dress washed too many times, her blonde hair tied back with a simple ribbon. She clutched a worn leather-bound journal to her chest, as if it were armor. The book had belonged to her great-grandfather, its pages filled with careful notes, sketches, and lessons about history, language, and truth. She was not meant to be there. Her mother, Helen, moved quietly through the room, refilling glasses with bottled water that cost more than their weekly groceries. Years of working invisible jobs had taught her how to vanish in plain sight. Her posture was polite, her expression neutral. But Ava saw the tremor in her hands, the tension she carried like a second skin. Helen had worked 2 jobs since Ava's father died. She endured humiliation and exhaustion so her daughter could survive, so she could maybe one day dream. The men at the table noticed neither of them, except when it suited them. One investor leaned toward another and muttered loudly, "Can you believe this? A child in a place like this." His companion smirked. Probably couldn't afford a babysitter. No standards anymore. Ava felt her cheeks burn, but she remembered her great-grandfather's words from the journal she'd read that morning. Dignity is a fortress, little star. Do not let small men breach its walls. So she stood straighter. The meeting began in earnest. Alastair Finch spoke with practiced ease, describing ancient lands reborn as modern fortunes. His voice painted pictures of sand turning to gold, of history yielding profit. Every word was polished, every promise irresistible. Then he unveiled the prize. From a cylindrical case, he carefully unrolled an aged parchment covered in flowing Arabic script. A crimson wax seal marked the bottom, ornate, regal, convincing. The original deed, Finch announced, granted by Sheikh Tarek's ancestors themselves. Ownership of the Allure Oasis and all mineral rights beneath it. A collective breath was held. Sheikh Tarek leaned forward, eyes fixed on the parchment. This wasn't just business. It was family, heritage, identity. A pen was placed in his hand. Across the room, Ava's stomach twisted. Something was wrong. She had spent countless hours studying her great-grandfather's journals, learning how paper aged, how ink behaved over centuries, how seals told stories if you knew how to listen. This document felt wrong. The parchment was too even, too perfect. Real vellum bore scars, thin patches, imperfections. The ink was too black, too crisp. True iron gall ink browned and burned into the page over time. This ink sat flat, lifeless. And the seal, her eyes narrowed. The pen hovered above the contract. Helen returned with a coffee pot, her steps hesitant. This was the moment everything would change. Ava's heart pounded. No one would listen to her. She was a child, a maid's daughter, invisible. She stepped forward once. Then again, her voice caught in her throat. The pen touched paper. In a rush of panic, Ava's elbow brushed a side table. A glass tipped, balanced, then shattered against the marble floor. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. Every head turned. What is the meaning of this? Finch snapped. Control your child. Helen rushed forward, mortified. I'm so sorry. Ava, go to the kitchen. Now! The investors muttered angrily, but Ava didn't move. She looked past the anger, past the greed, straight into the tired eyes of Sheikh Tarek al-Jamil. She took a breath and spoke, not in English, in flawless, formal Arabic. This is a fake. The room froze. The words echoed, calm and certain. Sheikh Tarek's head lifted slowly. His eyes widened, not in anger, but in sharp, sudden focus. Finch laughed nervously. A trick, a child's game. She knows nothing. Helen reached for Ava, terrified. But Ava spoke again, this time in English. It's a forgery. Silence pressed in from all sides. Prove it, Sheikh Tarek said quietly. Gasps followed. Finch sputtered in outrage. But the Sheikh's gaze never left the girl. Ava walked the table, her shoes silent on the Persian rug. She placed her great-grandfather's journal down gently. You don't have to be old to see the truth, she said. You just have to know where to look. She pointed out the machine-made paper, the modern ink, then the seal, the dot, she said simply, the dot on the letter F.A. It didn't exist in that script at that time. It's 100 years too early. The room went deathly still. Finch turned pale. Moments later, a historian confirmed it over video. A skilled forgery, the professor said, but a forgery nonetheless. Sheikh Tarek removed his glasses and bowed, deeply, before a 10-year-old girl in a faded blue dress. The silence that followed the historian's verdict was heavier than any accusation. The word fake still seemed to hang in the air, invisible yet suffocating, like smoke after an explosion. Alistair Finch stood frozen beside the table, his once perfect posture sagging as if his spine could no longer support the weight of his own deception. The confident smile that had carried him through boardrooms and private jets had collapsed into something small and frightened. The investors began to shift. One man stepped back from Finch, his face tightening with suspicion. Another whispered urgently into his phone, already calculating damage control. The circle around Finch widened, isolating him like a disease no one wanted to touch. Sheikh Tarek al-Jamil straightened slowly. The weariness that had clouded his eyes earlier was gone. In its place burned something sharper, clarity, anger, resolve. The look of a man who realized just how close he had come to humiliation, not only financial, but personal. Kareem, the Sheikh said calmly, his voice edged with steel. Please ensure Mr. Finch's associates do not leave the floor. Two silent security guards stepped forward without hesitation. Finch swallowed hard. Tarek, this is madness, he protested weakly. You're letting a child. You are finished, the Sheikh interrupted softly. Those 4 words carried more force than shouting ever could. Finch opened his mouth again, but no sound came out. He was escorted from the room, his former partners trailing behind him like mourners at their own funeral. The door closed. The penthouse felt different instantly. Cleaner, quieter, as if the lies had been carrying a scent that had finally been aired out. Helen stood near the wall, one hand pressed to her mouth, trembling. Her knees felt weak. She had been bracing herself for disaster, job loss, eviction, humiliation. Instead, she had watched her daughter dismantle a $250 million lie with nothing but knowledge and courage. Ava stood silently by the table, her small hand resting on her great-grandfather's journal. She didn't smile. She didn't look triumphant. She simply waited. Sheikh Tarek walked toward her. Helen's heart leapt. She held her breath, unsure whether what came next would be praise or consequence. Then the Sheikh stopped in front of Ava and bowed, not a polite nod, not a courtesy, a full formal bow, a gesture of deep respect. In my life, he said, his voice resonant and sincere, I have been surrounded by advisors, scholars, and powerful men. Today, none of them saved me. You did. He turned to Helen. Your daughter is extraordinary, and so are you. Helen could barely speak. Tears burned her eyes as she nodded. You are no longer staff here, the Sheikh continued. You are my honored guests. He led them away from the business space, toward a concealed elevator hidden behind a panel wall. The doors opened silently, revealing warm wood and soft golden light. As the elevator descended, The sheik spoke more quietly. "My penthouse is for business," he said. "But what I am about to show you is my true home." The doors opened into a vast, breathtaking library, 2 stories tall, walls lined with ancient books, leather spines etched with gold, a spiral staircase curled upward like a question waiting to be answered. The air smelled of old paper, beeswax, and time itself. Ava froze. Her eyes widened in pure wonder. "This," she whispered, "this is real." The sheik smiled. For the first time that day, a genuine smile. Ava drifted forward reverently, fingertips brushing the spines of books older than nations. She moved with instinctive care, like someone who belonged there. "This library," the sheik said, watching her, "has been in my family for generations." Helen stood stunned. She had clean marble floors and glass walls her entire life. But this was different. This room wasn't built to impress. It was built to remember. They stopped before a glass display case filled with artifacts. Ava studied them closely, her brow furrowing. "This one isn't real," she said suddenly. Helen's breath caught. "Ava," the sheik laughed, a deep, rich laugh that echoed warmly through the library. "You see," he said, "truth follows you." Instead of anger, he felt something unexpected, relief. Each lie exposed felt like a chain breaking. He closed his checkbook without writing a number. "Money is not the right answer," he said. "Purpose is." He turned to Helen. "I want you to be the curator of this collection, with training, resources, and respect." Helen stared at him, stunned beyond words. Then he turned to Ava. "And you," he said gently, "will be its guardian." Ava looked at her mother. Helen nodded, tears streaming freely now. Ava extended her hand, solemn and steady. "Okay," she said, "but I want to start with a dagger." The sheik laughed again, shaking her hand. "Of course you do." In the weeks that followed, everything changed. Helen and Ava moved into a light-filled apartment in the same building. Helen no longer scrubbed floors. She cataloged history. Ava spent her afternoons in the library, learning Latin, Greek, carbon dating, and preservation science. The fraudulent dagger proved Ava right. So did the vase, the letters, the coin. Truth after truth surfaced. Alistair Finch's empire collapsed under investigation. Lawsuits followed. His reputation vanished. But Ava didn't follow the news. She was too busy reading. Months later, scholars gathered in the library as the sheik announced the creation of the Sergeant Michael Peterson Foundation for Historical Integrity. Ava stood beside him, holding her great-grandfather's journal. "My great-grandfather taught me that every object tells a story," she said clearly. "But some stories are lies. Our job is to listen closely enough to know the difference." They listened. She was no longer invisible, and the world, finally quiet enough, heard the truth.